Welcome to Pawfectly Unleashed, a podcast where four friends talk about dog mon life, mental health, and everything in between. So today we're going to start with our battery percentages for the week. I would say I'm probably at about a 75% right now. It's going pretty good this week. Caroline, how about you?
I would say I am like 45, almost 50%, not quite there. Britt, how about you?
I'm going to say like a 40. I've been sick for like the last 6 days. Today I'm starting to feel better. Hopefully it's up from here. Nikki, what about you?
I was probably like about a 50, but I just learned that Ziggy got asked to come back to the hospital as like a therapy pet to have a break for the employees. And so I'm probably more like a 70 now. That's really exciting for us.
That's awesome.
Thanks. He really enjoyed it. It was really nice to see him do that.
It's actually great that Ziggy got called back because that actually ties in with our topic today. We're going to talk all things service dogs, emotional support animals, therapy animals. Actually, I planned on having Skylar as my service dog. That didn't go well because of my anxiety, ironically. I was not able to continue training her, but I did start task training her for my benefit of when I'm losing it in my house. She is there to assist me. I don't go out much, so I didn't find it necessary at the time to force myself to try to publicly train her. So we just worked on some things inside the house just to see if it would help my anxiety. She's definitely not a service dog, and I don't believe she is service dog material, but she does help me when I am here having anxiety or a panic attack or even a PTSD episode. She is consistently there for me with the task that she is trained for. So that's kind of my experience with that world environment. I know Brittney is training Quinn to be her service dog, and she is sharing her story on Instagram and just kind of showing us her journey. Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit more?
Sure. First and foremost, I feel like there's miscommunication or like a misunderstanding with service dogs. Like people kind of just like, oh, well, this can help me. Let me go do this. Service dogs have to be prescribed to you by a doctor. So I just want to put that out there. I did not just wake up one day and say, I have anxiety. I need a service dog because they can help me. Can she help me with my anxiety? 100%, but she helps me with other mental disabilities that I have on top of anxiety. Like my anxiety isn't to like the common anxiety. It's more so like it cripples me. So she kind of helps me live day to day easier. That's kind of what a service dog is. It makes your life easier in a sense.
I also think it's not just getting a dog to make you feel better. Like a lot of work goes into, I don't know personally because I'm not training either of my dogs for servicing because like Skylar, they are not service dog material. But I think that it's important to note that a ton of work goes into this. It does not happen overnight. You do not adopt a dog from anywhere. You do not get a dog from a breeder and they magically are your service dog. Now, there are service dog programs, I think. I'm not going to speak too much on it because I'm not really sure that I think they will bring them up for you and then train them for the tasks that you need. But I also wanted to ask someone that was a little bit more knowledgeable about the servicing journey, if they could explain what tasking is for everyone that's listening.
So first off, every handler has their own unique tasks that their dog does. You might find a lot of common tasks that, not common, but like tasks that like I do with Quinn, Caroline might do with Skylar, but not every handler does those same tasks. Like for example, when I go into a like dissociation, I start by touching my hair, which is from anxiety. So like I'll start stroking my hair from anxiety, which then like causes me to daze out, and then I dissociate. I am now training Quinn to jump on me and kind of knock my hands away to distract me from that behavior, like that, if that makes sense. And something like that that triggers me into dissociation might not be the same trigger for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
For my experience, speaking on like how every handler is different, something that I struggle with a lot is when I am panicking or when I'm having that moment of like crippling anxiety where I can physically not move out of my bed. A lot of people find it helpful to have pressure on them. If anything is touching me, I feel like I can't breathe. I have like an intense feeling of like claustrophobia, and I just like, I cannot breathe. So for Skylar, I do not want her on top of me, and she knows that. She can pick up on that. There's other times where I'm like, I just want you on top of me. Like, I just need that like reassurance. But when I'm having my moment of either panic or having a PTSD episode, she knows to come right next to me, and she lays her head where I feel like the least constricted. So she'll lay her head on my shoulder. She'll like have her paw on my leg, on my chest, on my arm, just like having her there is just like a feeling of calmness, which allows me to be able to feel like I can breathe better than having her on top of me. So that is a task that she is trained for, just so that I can feel secure and safe.
I would say for
That's
me, like with,
interesting.
Hudson isn't, I've tossed around the idea of training Hudson to be my service dog. At this particular moment, I don't have the time to put in for it, but it's not something that's out of the picture. However, he has been trained for a couple tasks, not anything crazy. And honestly, it's not even all the way down packed, but like for me, for my anxiety, the first thing that happens is I'm a leg shaker. Like my leg is going to go to town. And Hudson has, for like 2 or 3 times now that I've actually trained it, he picks up on that and he comes over and he's like, absolutely not, Mom. No, please don't do that. So that's probably one of the main things that he has learned. And he is also, see, when now I'm opposite of Caroline, I want that pressure on me. So I never trained him for that, but that boy, he's 60 pounds and he thinks he's 6. He's on top of me all the time. Like anywhere I'm surprised he's not sitting with me right now. But normally when I'm in here, he's on top of me. So those things, I guess, help me. But he hasn't fully been trained, and honestly, I'm not sure when he will be, just because it's a lot of work. Service dog. It's not just saying, "Hey, okay, my dog's a service dog now." Like, no, there's hoops that you have to go through, and specific training, and like they need to be able to go out, not just in your home, but like out and about, which I know is what you're working on right now with Quinn. So it's not as easy as it seems of saying, "Hey, here's my service dog."
Yeah.
Hey, we're out and about and we know what we're doing. When you were talking, I was going to count all of the tasks that Quinn has learned. Now, I started Quinn's journey in September. So September till now, September, October, November, December, January, February. We're almost in March. So we're going on like 6 months of her doing her task training. So we have 1, 2, 3. I feel like I'm missing one, but I'm pretty sure we have 4 tasks down. And there's a lot more that I want her to learn to help me. But I mean, 4 tasks aren't that bad for that amount of time.
That's a lot for 6 months.
Yeah. And in the beginning of us training, it was more so working on her confidence versus working on tasks. Like, I don't think we started task training until around November, December? I think it was around the holidays. That's when I first did the first one of her doing my the same thing that Alexis does with Hudson.
Yeah.
With your
Leg tapping.
Yeah, and she just kind of intuitively knew to do
Let's
that.
just pause.
So sorry for that pause. Unfortunately, service dogs are still dogs, and we had a little bit of a poop emergency. With that being said, I do want to highlight, because I feel like, again, there's a miscommunication or a misinterpretation with dogs, well, service dogs. I feel like a lot of people believe service dogs are supposed to be robots, and that's not true. They should still be able to enjoy life. They should still be able to play. They should still be able to have feelings and do things as normal dogs do. Just when they're working, they should also have a level of, I guess, like professionalism, if you want to call it that. Like when they're working, they're on duty, and when they're not, they're not. And that's okay. Because like nobody expects humans to be on 24/7. So why do we expect service dogs to be on 24/7? They do still alert us, even if they are not on duty, but they still should be able to play and have active lives and be a dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I have been, I've mentioned Skylar is not service dog material, but I am planning on getting another dog very soon. And when, she gets home, just kind of seeing her temperament and how she is to be in the running to my service dog. But when I mentioned this to someone, the response was, well, I don't want this dog to be, robotic. Like, I still want to be able to enjoy having this dog around. And like, there is definitely a misconception with a service dog being stale, or like that's all they know how to do. And it's just like every dog. Like Skylar, she is a working dog. She has to have a job, or else she will lose her mind. And when she is in her phase of like, I am working right now, like, don't bother me, she's a hunting dog. So she goes outside and she hunts. And a lot of times that's all she wants to do. She doesn't want to play. She doesn't want to do anything. She just wants to hunt. And when she comes back inside, or when she like breaks her point, she becomes a dog again. And she's running around, playing, goofing off, throwing with the ball. Like, she's just being a dog. And so I definitely feel like that is a misconception that we can go ahead and break right now, because it's not true. Dogs are dogs, and they will be dogs. And when they are on duty, when they do have their job, they're focused on their job, and that's what they do. And then when they're off, they're off. So
100%.
I thought that before I learned more about service dogs. Like, I kind of was like, oh, that's kind of sad that they have to be at attention and perfect and focusing on something else 100% of the time, and they don't get to be a dog. But as I learned more about dogs and got my own dog, I realized that, I mean, at the end of the day, they're still dogs. Their needs still need to be met. Like, yes, they're doing all of this work to meet the needs of their handler, and they're doing all of this important work. And a lot of dogs like to have a job. Ziggy missed the memo on that one, but they enjoy helping. They enjoy their jobs, I think, is what I'm trying to say. And so that does fulfill part of their needs, but then there are still other needs that need to be filled too, with exercise and enrichment and things like that. I think it's been interesting to me to have a family dog in the early 2000s, I think, and then to now learn so much more about all of the people that had family dogs in the early 2000s that have now grown up and gotten their own dogs, and the stark difference of the way that people kind of value and understand and treat their dogs. And I was definitely one of those people that I was, and don't hurt me because I am not this person anymore, but I was one of those, it's just a dog people. Yeah. And I didn't understand, especially with service dogs. Like I did not fully grasp the work that they do, all of the important things that they do, the way that they can help, and the nuances that dogs can pick up on. Like being in the medical field, it's very interesting for me to know that a dog can pick up on things like a seizure, low blood sugar, significantly earlier than any of our modern medical equipment. And I think that's amazing. And I think that it's so wonderful that people are able to tap into this and really utilize dogs to their highest capacity. And I just think that that's, for me, at least something new that has happened over the more recent years.
I do want to touch on, I think Caroline said it. I think it was a little while ago. And a lot happened from that conversation. You really do have to feel out the dog that you're making your prospect for service dogs. So like I adopted Quinn without the intent of servicing her. So I don't think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people think that I adopted her with the intent. I did not. I saw how in tune she was and how much of an empath she was, and it just really fit her, which also why I think she picks up on tasking easily is because she's very in tune with me. So like if you take a dog that's not meant for servicing, it could take a lot longer to train them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that in there.
I feel, I mean,
go ahead, Alexis. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So like with Hudson, like my other two, I don't have the same connection as I do as with Hudson. So that's why like servicing them never would have even been or is in my realm with those two, because I don't have the connection like I do with him. Like he knows things about me before I know things about me. So I think it has to do, and if I ever do service him, he was found on the side of the road. So like I had no intentions of him being anything in that same realm. So
I also think it's important to note that dogs are usually in tune with their owners, whether they're serviced or not. Ziggy's really in tune with me. He, I feel like, mimics my emotions. And when I was thinking about getting a dog, when we were thinking about getting a dog, I mentioned it to my therapist, and my therapist was like, I actually think that would be a great thing for you. But the difference is we talked about him as being more emotional support, definitely not service dog. So again, something I didn't know, that there's a difference between an emotional support animal and a service dog. Emotional support, he's not task trained, he won't be task trained, but he does things like comes over and plays on me when I'm feeling sad or anxious. He is just something that's there that kind of brings me out of that dark place, that something that makes me have to get up in the morning. I have to wake up, I have to feed him, I have to take him on a walk. And so that's just something to call out, to say that not everyone that feels like they have a great connection with their dog or are really in tune with their dog should make that dog their service dog. Yeah, I think, again, something that I didn't know. But another thing that I didn't know, I'm really calling myself out this entire episode, is the difference between servicing, emotional support, and therapy pets. I thought that a service dog was a therapy pet. I had no idea that things were different. And let me preface this by saying my 9 to 5 is in a hospital. I am a nurse. I see animals in my hospital all the time. I thought they were service animals. They are absolutely not. They are therapy pets. They live with their handlers. They are very well trained, but they are not task trained. They are there to take the burden off of the patients or employees, whatever is needed. And be more emotional support. Ziggy had the benefit of doing that through a local hospital, through the rescue that we got towed from. He was able to go and they called it a break for the employees to cheer them up. So we were stationed in the lobby with a bunch of other rescues and a bunch of other dogs, and the employees were able to come down as they could and spend time with animals. And Ziggy lit up. He was so happy. He was in his element, and everyone that was with him lit up too. And it was just so interesting to see that. It was something that I had never seen. I mean, I know when I take him on walks that people are like, oh, he's cute and can we pet him? And he's always super excited for that attention, which is good and bad. I learned to not let everyone pet my dog, but again, a tangent. But in that instance, seeing the joy that he brought to people's faces, knowing firsthand how difficult that job is, that they're taking this 5-minute break to come and see my dog, and to be able to see the difference that it made in the person's demeanor and how happy that he was doing it, really made me look into it. So there are a bunch of things that you have to do to be able to do that. You have to go through some training courses and some certifications, because when he was asked to come back, it was outside of the rescue organization. So I made sure to ask, what are the qualifications that he needs to have in order to do this? They sent me a list. I started the process of doing it so that he will be able to go back because he enjoyed it so much. Something also that I learned in my research with this is that, and selfishly, not sure if we are going to continue down this path, is that there are studies that say dogs that are therapy dogs live shorter lives because they take on all of the emotions that the humans are offloading when they're being therapy dogs. So our dogs do that with us. And let me say that he gets a lot of that from me already. So I'm not sure the bandwidth that he has to take on from other people. And selfishly, I want him around for as long as I can have him around. And I just don't know if I can be that selfless, knowing that that is the case.
I totally understand that.
Me too, for sure.
I get that. All right. Well, I'm very happy that you are going about it the right way. If you do choose to go down that route for Ziggy, I know you guys know what I'm about to say next. You were all in that chat with me. There was a content creator who took her dog to work with her. Dog has no training. I believe she only adopted her, a few months prior?
Like 3, maybe?
I think so. Dog was, I think, like 6 months old. So dog's 6 months old. You adopted her 3 months prior to that. No, I don't know if that's I don't know if those numbers are accurate.
A bit older,
somewhere around there
than 6 months, but she had definitely had her for less than 3.
Yeah. I know that. I know she didn't get her at 3 months old. I think she got her at 6 months. So maybe the dog was 9 months at that point. I feel like maybe somewhere that's where I'm getting the numbers.
It was a young dog, and she got her very recently to this.
And she didn't get her as a puppy. That's the key thing here. She did not get this dog as a puppy. She brought the dog with no training other than her training her at home herself, which, not knocking anybody that self-trains their dogs. I think that's amazing. I think that's great. I, however, don't think a dog that you've had for that little time that doesn't have the correct testing should be around autistic children or children at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 3-3-3 rule, right? 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. she was still in that decompression phase. You do not know the dogs that you have yet. You don't.
No.
So you're putting your dog in a potentially dangerous situation. You're putting those kids in a potentially dangerous situation. That was really triggering for me. I was not really friends with you guys yet at the time. So I was just kind of sitting back, watching it all unfold from a lens of, oh, I used to teach kids with special needs, and I would have never allowed this to happen. This is really scary, but didn't really have anyone
also, I'm sorry. I just want to touch on the only reason why I said autistic children was because she made it a fact to say that.
Correct. Yeah. No, she told us that.
She made it a fact to say that because she was so proud of how great her girl did. And I was like, ooh, no, ma'am. And
very proud. Yeah.
I definitely challenged that. Not to throw breeds around, but we're going to throw a breed around. She had a bully breed, which I'm a very big advocate for. And you're just setting that dog up for failure. Because if that bully breed did something, it's done. You're done. If it was a different kind of breed, I'm sure that there would be like some kind of something that came about it. But because it's a bully breed, the stigma attached, it wouldn't have ended so well. 100%.
I can confirm
and of course,
that
and
she did challenge it. I was a part of that conversation. And she did challenge it. And the person, was coming back, just like emphasizing how she has trained this dog and she knows her dog, and she would have never put her dog in a situation that the dog wasn't prepared for. And I mean, she was dying on that hill. And I even came in and started having, Britt's side, which is not even having Britt's side, it's having the correct side. And I was just like, what? Like, do you know what you're saying right now? Because you're setting your dog up for failure. You're putting kids in danger. You're putting parents that she claimed she had their permission from in a very awkward position. You're putting the other teachers in a very awkward position. Like, it's not a good situation, point blank, period. It's just not. You can know your dog like the back of your hand, or claim to, but at the end of the day, you are setting your dog up for failure because you're putting it in a situation where you don't know how your dog's going to react. You've never, experienced things like this. Exactly. It's an unpredictable situation. It's a unsafe situation, and just a bad idea. Like, it's not smart.
Now we know, like we just touched on, there are classes, there are steps that you should be taking to be able to do this. And not saying that a bully breed would never be able to do that. I'm sure that a bully breed would be great at this with the right training and setup. And
if you're setting them up for success, they're going to be successful, no matter what the breed is. Doesn't matter that it's a bully breed. The only reason why I made it a point to say that was because everybody knows the stigma behind them. And then that's what really triggered me. And I was like, you're really putting this dog at real, like, horrible risk. Like you're not going to get a slap on, like, you're not going to get like a slap on the tush because your dog nipped a kid. They're going to be like, no, this dog needs to go back to the pound or something else. And I didn't like that.
Yeah. And as much as you can try and set your dog up for success on your own, kids are unpredictable, period. Point blank. I don't care. The full spectrum of children are unpredictable. They grab dogs. They're invasive. They are not respectful. Things are going to, you cannot predict what's going to happen. So you can't prepare your dog for that. That's why there are classes that talk about these things, but also why there's so much training that goes in to being able to do this. And I mean, point in case, I had my dogs around kids, which they're great around kids. They always have been great around kids. But they met a child that they hadn't met before who thankfully was dog savvy. But the kid had gloves on, and Toad had never seen a hand in a glove. Didn't even consider that this would happen because it's not something that's going through my brain. Well, the kid took his fingers out of the finger part of the glove and kind of had it in the fist part and was like waving it around in Toad's face. And Toad grabbed the finger part of the glove and took the glove off the child's hand. He didn't bite him. The fingers weren't in there. He didn't know what it was. And then he just dropped it when he realized, what is this in my mouth? And thankfully, the dad was like, why would you do that? We have dogs. You know not to do that. Why would you do that? And I was profusely apologizing, like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And the kid said, the dog bit me. He did not. It was not the case. The dad stepped in immediately and was like, he did not bite you. And you did that. You took the glove, waved it in his face. What did you think was going to happen? And I was so thankful in that moment to have parents that understood dogs and were dog savvy. And also a kid that was pretty dog savvy, because when he was saying that the dog bit him, he was giggling. He knew that the dog didn't actually bite him. He bit him. He bit his glove. But that is something that I would have never in a million years seen coming. That is not something that I would have ever prepared my dogs for, to be around kids. But it happened. And that is like the lowest of the totem pole of things that can go wrong. And that was not a classroom full of kids that's not having one-on-one supervision from an adult. And then layer in the fact of kids with special needs. There are just so many things that can go wrong. Can't imagine wanting to put yourself and your dog in that situation and then boasting about it to people and then doubling down and getting angry when people were started out trying to be kind to say, ooh, have you thought about this? And then you lost it when you doubled down and did all of that. So
I'm glad that you had a good experience and had, parents that were aware. I know like there's a lot of situations where parents don't teach the kids, kids don't know. I have neighbors. They're great neighbors, but they have a small child. I can't really put an age on her, maybe like 7. She's young. She's not aware. She has cats. And she is obsessed with my dogs. And we have a chain link fence that separates her and my dogs, which we're hoping to get a privacy fence up soon, so we won't even have to worry about this. But she likes to stick her hand and her entire arm through the chain link fence. And Skylar, super excited to see her, loves kids, runs over, greets her every time she's out. But she's also a dog. She's unpredictable. And I'm not going to sit here and try to make her not be a dog. She's in her yard, in her environment. She's happy to be outside. And she gets distracted. She takes off running and she chases after something. Several times my heart has sunk because this child, like I said, sticks her entire arm through the fence. And I am just like, exactly. I just like am picturing in my mind Skylar taking off with this child's arm. And I'm just like,
not realizing it's an arm.
I can't do it. The parents, grandparent, they just sit and watch.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
they?
Maybe tell your kid to get her arm out of the fence. Like, let's not do this. And so the first time I saw it, I was like, ooh, let's not do this. So, I called Skylar off of her and she comes running to me like, oh, hey, did you see? I'm like, yeah, I saw. Let's, do something else. And she just sits there and calls at them and calls at them, and they just run to her. And I told her, I was like, hey, let's like keep our arms inside your fence, just in case something happens. Like, I don't want my dog to take off with your arm. Like, let's just keep our limbs inside your property. So now every time they go out, and if she's out there, they'll come up and, lick her, say hi. And she always keeps her arms inside, her hands inside. And she like puts her hand on the fence. So if they want to like lick her, they can. And then I'm like, okay, we'll see you later. Like, let's go. And, they mind their business. But again, it's just a situation that anything could happen.
Yeah.
And it just emphasizes the point again. Why would you put your dog in a position to potentially fail?
Right.
Because
100%.
at the end of the day, they're dogs, and you can train them, and obviously highly recommend that. Go through the process, go through the classes. But again, at the end of the day, there are dogs, and for her to do that is just
it puts you in an uncomfy situation because you have to then parent someone else's kid. I see that a lot in the city when I'm walking my dogs, because there will be kids outside playing, and I live in a city. They play outside, out front, and on the side streets, in the street. It's normal here. And my dogs are cute, and they're compact, and they're smaller than the kids usually. So the kids want to pet them, and they'll say, most of the time, which I'm very thankful for and is very fortunate, because I think not everyone has the same experience that I do around here. But the kids that I come into contact with will always ask, can I pet your dog? And my response is always the same. Where's mom and dad? Because what I'm not going to do is let you pet my dogs without a parent present, without parent supervision, because I'm not going to put my dogs in a situation for someone to potentially say that something happened. And if I don't have another set of an adult eyes on the other side, that's not comfy for me to allow that to happen. I also don't know if there are allergies from mom and dad in the home or anything like that, that I don't want. It's not my kid. I'm not going to tell them that they can or cannot do something, but it does put you in an uncomfortable situation where then you feel like you have to walk the fine line of, how do I parent this person's child without actually parenting this person's child?
Yeah.
As we are coming to the ending of this episode, I just want to give a little disclaimer. Everything that we had shared with you this episode is everything straight from our experience. We are not trained professionals. So I hope that you learned something about service dogs, ESA, emotional support animals, or therapy dogs. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you stick around for the rest of this episode.
So we are going to go into our Q&A segment. We have 2 questions, and they are kind of similar. So I'm going to answer the first one, and then we can talk about the second one. But the first question is, do you ever run overtime in your podcast recording? Short answer, yes. Every single time. We have 2 meetings a week, one to prep some stuff for the podcast and for our business. And then the second meeting is for recording. We originally had 2 hours allotted for recording and 30 minutes to an hour allotted for our meeting. I can tell you right now that we run anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, sometimes over that. So we definitely do run over time, but that is inevitable when you have 4 friends coming together to talk. The second question is, how much time do you spend on social media and creating content a day/week? Brittney, do you want to share that with us?
I don't really think I have allotted time. I'm sure that's not the answer that everybody wants to hear, but I'm literally working from the minute I wake up to the minute I fall asleep. I'm trying to do better about Sundays. I figured start small. So Sundays, I'm trying to take from the afternoon to the evening off of social media. am I still thinking about it? Am I still thinking about content? Sure. I don't think a content creator ever really stops thinking. So my short answer, always. Like always I'm working. Alexis?
I was hoping I was going to go last on this one because I know all of y'all's answers, and mine is the total opposite. And I'm a slacker, honestly, on content creation. I probably spend maybe 2 to 3 hours a week, and that's like taking pictures, videos, and all that. Because to be honest, I try to stay off my phone as much as possible, and doing content creation, you're on your phone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a slacker content creator, but it is what it is. Caroline, how about you?
So the goal is I have like my work hours, my office hours, my able to communicate me hours. And those are between 9 and 2 o'clock. Like Britt said, as a content creator, you're always on. So my mind is always running. If I'm like thinking of a content idea after my allotted times, I will write it down, revisit it the next day. Mindlessly scrolling on Instagram is not mindless anymore. I'm always scrolling for trends and whatnot.
Yeah.
So my 9 to 2 is, answering emails, getting content, posting, engaging with people, all of the content creator things. And then outside of that is if I'm scrolling on Instagram, if I find a trend, I'll save it, or a sound, I'll save it, or an idea, I'll write it down. So that's kind of my schedule. Nikki, how about you?
I think that I try and spend like 1 to 2 hours on Instagram content creation a day. Kind of out of necessity. I have a 9 to 5 that comes first. And I do try and batch content like on the weekends with pictures and videos. So I can allow myself to just hop on, do what I need to do for 1 to 2 hours, and then hop off. So it's a work in progress. I think we're all trying to find the balance, but I think that's probably what mine is. I should probably look at my screen time, and it would probably give me more insight to that. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We're so happy to have you here, and we can't wait to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
You can find us on Instagram at Pawfectly Unleashed. Head over there, let us know what you want to hear, ask us questions. Everything will stay anonymous, so no worries about that. You can stream our podcast at Pawfectly Unleashed on Spotify and YouTube, coming soon to Apple Podcasts.